And we are very glad that you are here and we have no empty seats in the room. During this session, this 2-hour session, we're going to touch upon an important subject on how to change the city without using some drastic measures. Although, well, you might think it's not actually the case in Moscow if you look at how it's digged out. But if we don't just work with one single topic, we can do a lot. And our guests have a lot of experience in Moscow and outside Moscow, and we're going to talk about this experience. We are going to have 7 speakers. Every speaker will have 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to listen to them, and then we'll have a Q&A session. We'll start with a person who is doing a project with cinema theaters. He's transforming Soviet times cinema houses into modern cinema. Grigory Pechovsky, Managing Director, ADG Group. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thanks to the organizers for this great event, great organization. I think that this year it has been a really large-scale and interesting event. And the way this room is designed is quite particular. We just need some additional elements, and it will look like just as an Oriental room. We've been converting cinema theaters, Soviet cinema theaters, into modern ones. We've been working with 39 buildings. Most of you do know how they look. Most of them actually were closed at the point of at the moment of purchase. Some others looked like sad, grey commercial spaces, and 1/4 only shows actually movies. Well, it looks sad, of course, but if we look into the history, these cinema theaters played quite an important role and had a fundamental function of entertaining people. Lenin actually said cinema and circus are the most important arts, and Soviet cinema theaters were actually following this line. Every district in Moscow had a cinema theater. It was not a long time that this lasted, and with the advent of internet, of television, of the way the cinemas work, Soviet theaters were not really demanded. And if we look a little bit further back into the history, we will see that Moscow, before the Soviet time, was divided into Tsar districts called Sloboda, and in the middle of this Sloboda we had a church, and the church was the point of attraction for the local inhabitants. So people of similar interests could spend time there, and that is, of course, logical. Our idea when renovating cinema theaters was to recreate this kind of districts in order for people to have civic spaces where they can spend their leisure time, have enough infrastructure to live in, and would increase their life quality. So, inspired by this background, we decided to recreate civic centers, community centers, in order to recreate communication, trade, create a place for people to meet, to talk, to have an opportunity to get certain services, leisure services, where they live, in order not to have to commute, to spend time in congestion, in traffic jams, which is not very pleasant. So have enough space. So working on such a large-scale project, it's important to link several interests between each other. Citizens' interests are to be considered, business interests are to be considered, because you have to finance it somehow. And of course, we see how the city changes, how citizens' life is changing. A lot of interesting speeches and presentations have been made. And we see how it affects the business of our partners. So as developers, we have to adapt. We have to be quick adapting, and we should think about business partners, but not from the business partners, the business point of view, but from the citizens' point of view, because they are the end customers. And of course, community citizens, those who live around this community center, are the target audience. So a lot of people have been living in this area for many years, and rarely they go outside these areas. When we started working on this project, we saw quite an interesting thing. It was a discovery to me, at least. I don't know if it is a discovery to you, but I saw the following. Between the third ring and the MKAD, the main ring road, there are more than 10 million people living. So 90% of the Moscow population lives in this area, and only few people live in the downtown. So it was an important information for us, and we tried to draw practical conclusions out of it. And we saw that there is a little educational, cultural, and civic infrastructure for this uptown inhabitants. So there is enough infrastructure in the downtown, but where people really live, the infrastructure, there is a room for improvement of this infrastructure. Then we made more discoveries when we started studying the behavior of the Moscow citizens. Now, I would like to offer you to play a game which will have a prize in the end as well. I hope that most of you are connected to the internet. There is Wi-Fi, and 3G is also working quite well. So I invite you all to go to kahoot.it. It's a very easy website. If you spend 2 minutes there, you will understand what you have to do. Previous slide, please. You'll have to insert the PIN and your name. And after that, you'll have questions on the screen. Please answer them. And in the end, you will have a prize if you answer the questions. So on the screen, you will see the names Wi-Fi is not working. Wi-Fi is down. And what's the price? It's a valuable price. You will give a cinema theater to us? No, a ticket to the cinema theater. Well, if we have the names, I think everything is working.
Справляетесь?
Doing okay? Great. Maybe 10 seconds more and we'll continue. So you will see questions on the screen. You have to find an answer, choose four possible choices, and then you'll see if you're wrong or right, and the speed also matters. The quicker you answer, the better. Please start. So how many people never go to the city center? How many people never go to the city center? What do you think? 16, 10, 7, or 34? The right answer is 16. Well, you were more pessimistic than I was. So these are the names of the winners, of those who made the highest score. Speed of the answer matters, yes. Then how many people spend their leisure time within their district? 12, 30, 27, or 46%? How many people spend their leisure time inside their district? Well, you see that almost half of the Moscow population almost never leaves their districts, their communities. For me, it was an amazing fact. I was totally petrified because I thought it can't be. How many people there are in the biggest online community? So if we take Facebook, other communities, how many people? 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, or 15,000 people? How many people there are in the biggest district community online? I think something is down again. Only one person could respond? Well, actually, the biggest community is the Sokol district community, 10,000 people, and it is an efficient way of communicating between the community members. How many people go online using only their mobile phones? 5, 7, 10, or 19%?
Да, цифры, соответственно, опять-таки говорят сами за себя. На самом деле,
Well, I think this was the last question, 19%. How many people older than 45 years old go online with their mobile phones? How many people older than 45 years go online with their mobile phones? Well, it looks amazing, but it is so. I thought less. How many people do research on a product on the internet before they go and buy it? 12, 32, 41, or 75%. That's how it is. So why all these questions? How many people? Well, this question we already had it.
Онлайн, да, извините. 4,
4, 12, 44, and 61. Well, you'll have to do it in 2 minutes because we'll have more presentations afterwards. So now we'll just say who is the winner, and that's it.
Elena is the top, far ahead the others, so please join us later for the prize. And this represents that Elena knows the Muscovites much better than all of us, and certainly better than me before the exams were taken. And I think it makes sense to discuss with her some issues concerning Moscow later. Getting back to our discussion. Before to make a good, successful project, you need just to construct a block of flats. So the mere fact that you have some real estate, some square miles of areas was enough for being successful. Then developers will start thinking more about social issues. Where are we going now? To be successful in real estate, we've got to do much more than before. Historically, our projects are located in widely populated areas, and we are mostly oriented at those people who live next door, and that is why we prefer to see the same people every day, knowing a lot about us. And this project aims at being long-term and helpful for our customers, for our neighbors. So working with our people every day, we've got not only to work with ourselves, but to meet their demands. And the inhabitants, the public, are the best source for information. So this data shows that we've got to move to another era of communication with our customers. What we have to do is not just to make the fundament, to put bricks and Lego pieces, but to interact with our customers using all possible channels. And this is now called omni-channel access, and this is what is highly developed in the world. And we've got to use it, using all kinds of channels to interact with our customers, social media, the buildings, and we would like our visitors to participate in the process, to be an active participant of the process. Sorry to be so long with the quiz. Let's conclude. And here, let me highlight that our centers should be the centers for infrastructure, improving quality of life and the spirits of the inhabitants in the areas where they live. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Grigory. And the next presentation will be about changes and preparation to changes. And I'd like to give the floor to Giovanna Carnivali, project head of Strelka.
Sorry, it's not even working? Yes, it's working, this one, okay. Hello, good morning to everyone. I'm going to be very short, but probably I hope to be as clear as short I am. I'm not talking about any project that made a great impact on a city, but I'm talking about a step before. So we, Strelka competition, we are the most closest people to the architects. So how many architects do we have here in the room? Please lift the hands. Yeah, you are architect as well, but you don't lift the hands. Okay. So we should be friends, I think. So we talk about one step before because we talk about competition. We believe that, strongly believe that if we make a good brief, then we can create a big impact on the city, whatever project it is. So we strongly believe that architectural competition, that's what I read here because this is our statement, deliver both solution and surprising solution for effectively improving the quality of city life. But how do we do it? I mean, you can call the best architect in the world, and then you can say to make anything, like an office, a museum. Then we are talking next time, I mean, in the next moderation, we are talking about the Bilbao effect. But if you don't have a good program, a good brief, you don't understand what the users want, you don't understand what the client needs, you can make whatever building the most effective and the most beautiful building can be, but it doesn't work. It won't create such a big effect. So our main objective is to create a vision, so to join the creativity and principle as well. But principle based on the cost control, facilitation for clients and for the architect as well. We have made, I mean, we are quite pretty young, Strelka, and Strelka competition even more, because we start the competition in 2011, but you already made 17 so far. And then here you can see that we have many categories. I don't know if you can read properly, but we touch culture, research, infrastructure, healthcare, and some of them are really even mixed, because what our society is about. And most of 50% are already on process of building process. So we are quite proud of it, because there are not competition that simply stays on that level and that stops, but we try to make them go ahead until their realization. We finally, in 5 years, we created, and then we are keep building a professional network. And we are proud to say that we have more than 100,021 architects that are in our network. This is a list of architects. We are searching for talent. We are not searching for names, but we are searching for those talented architects that are able to create a great solution for specific programs. And that's what we strongly do believe in it. Maybe the moment of Star Architects is finished, whatever, we don't know. Maybe Star Architects are still welcome, but we do believe there is new generations of architects. They have a lot to say. We are young. I consider also myself young. So we want to foster these new visions. Let me explain why. I mean, how we strongly believe in our way of making competition. Just really pass through briefly. If you have a normal commission, you have a client, has an idea, great, and maybe he wants to do an office. And okay, ask an architect to make an office. Maybe he has an idea of how much this building will cost. And he has another program. He will develop, the architect will develop the project. And there are many risks. Most of the time, before joining Strelka, I was at the head of Mies van der Rohe Foundation in which we given the prize, European prize for contemporary architecture, and I've seen more than 4,000 projects, and most of them, more than 60% of them, their budget were completely out. Budget, timeline, schedule. And why is it happening? There is a big risk from the client, because it had finally only one project with a lot of problems. I'm not even talking about star architecture products, but I'm talking about average. Architecture is a very slow process, but still, we need to control everything. Sustainability is not only painting the green, the building, or just using sustainable technology, but it's about everything. So how do we see the competition? For us, client maybe has an idea or has a project. He wants to do a building, office building. Again, the example of office building. We need to create a comprehensive document. We need, and I think clients want that, we need to give to him or to her a vision, which is the creativity part. We need to forecast, to make a benchmark and forecast what is the tendency of the office nowadays. Which are the offices nowadays they are creating cut edging of offices everywhere in the world. Which kind of needs does the clients have? But we need to talk to the users. We need to talk from everyone, even for the cleaning people, to understand what the building is about. So, as Mitson said, you can have infinite solution design proposals that respond of a request of a project. So we can have many feasible solutions if you give the good brief. And then, as many projects you have, they have the same kind of quality. And then the client will choose only the one that fits the best. Well, we have an integrated approach. We talk about process, space, and people. This is the base. Because if we really need to change something, we must start from the bottom. This is an example, and it's a very nice story about that. It's a competition which we just finished, ended a couple of months ago in Tel Aviv. And was online, it was open international competition, was online for only 19 days, and we had 1821 registration, 128 participants, and we made a first selection of 21 applicants from their curricula. And by the way, Michael Rocktin, which is here, we made a Skype with him. It was in between these 21 participants. It was funny because we were in Tel Aviv, we had a series of Skype, and we asked to present themselves and also a first vision of the project. After that, we selected 6 participants, and finally there was a winner. But we let the client select the winner. We're right until 3, and the client made a private negotiation, because maybe you can have the best project in the world, but if you don't find good with the architect, if you don't have a good relationship, it doesn't work. So I'm going fast. This is the preparation. I just want to pass really briefly. I don't even want to write, but these are all the documents that we prepare for the client, for the architects, and for the users. And talking about small buildings that have a great impact. There are many architectural competition offices that they create only the program of the building itself or this public space or whatever without understanding the context. This is the first thing. So, for example, here you can see the context of Tel Aviv, the campus of Tel Aviv. This is a nanotechnology center. It's only 66,000 square meters. So you can see it's very small, but it has a very huge impact on students, on the campus, and for Tel Aviv, because he create a relationship, a network with other nanotechnology centers in all the world. So, but the more you come closer and you scale down, you see that the little cross is the place, this is the place of the building, so very little, it's very little. But they create a very big, huge impact, and again, not only on the campus, but in whole Tel Aviv itself, because it brings this building, thanks to this building, Tel Aviv is in international scale. And we wanted to understand the site, the surrounding area, the scale of the project, and also according to us, the most important relationship with the most important building, and here is the site of the plot. What is the brief for us? It's the sum of a vision and principle, space program, and cost evaluation. Never forget creativity, but never forget also the cost evaluation and the space program. We had 6 participants, and I'm coming very close, this is the end. And you can see here, that's funny, because Elemental was selected before Aravena won the Pritzker Prize. And despite of it, he didn't win. So he won Michel Ramon, which was from France, and maybe not so well-known architect as now Aravena. So maybe everybody expected, even we, that the client would have chosen for the best architect that won the Pritzker Prize. But no. Michel Ramon, an office in France, not so big, he won because, according to the client, answered to the best, as the best, to the site, to the relationship with the campus, how the section and the ground floor works, also because it's a nanotechnology center, so I mean, it's a very specific program with a very specific building. Everything has to work really perfectly, but at the same time has to be flexible. We learned a lot, also from the clients. So, again, now I'm finished. And just to say, as Ms. van der Rohe said, I don't want to be interesting. I want to be good. And that's what we are trying to do every day. Thank you very much.
Спасибо большое, Джованна. Ну, у вас получилось
Thank you very much, Giovanna. We were interested now. Thank you very much, sir. Also interesting for us. And now I would like to invite 2 participants from New York, where they could work only on the ground. But James Ramsey and Daniel Barish, who now work in the underground. The floor is yours.
Hi, how are you? I'm James Ramsey. Thanks for having me, first of all. I guess I want to just start out simply by saying that there's a sort of an undercurrent to this entire forum having to do with the fact that we live in the age of the emerging city, right? And all of a sudden there's all these exciting new possibilities about using design, innovation, technology to actually address all the really basic problems that are suddenly confronting us. Do we have enough power? How does circulation work? Do we have enough water? All these sorts of issues. But it's also something that I think is very closely applicable to simple issues of livability. How do we actually use our cities and how do we enjoy them? And as Giovanna was just saying, we have a very specific problem sometimes, and it's important that we find a very specific solution to them. And so the Lowline Project, which is what we're here to talk about today, is a very specific solution to a very fundamental problem that is plaguing a very specific place in New York, right? And I want to sort of underscore the fact that this is something that we have thought is a great solution. And this is a project that has no client. There's no RFP. The city did not ask us to do this. This is just something that we thought of, and we thought that this would actually, we're just 2 normal guys. This is something that would make our city better. And the process of this project has been to build a grassroots movement around this concept and a consensus around it to actually make it a reality in the hopes that we can make our city a little better. So what is the Lowline Project? The Lowline is basically the concept that we can take an abandoned rail station, abandoned trolley station that's over 100 years old, underneath one of Manhattan's busiest streets, in one of Manhattan's most crowded neighborhoods, and by using advanced solar technologies, introduce natural sunlight into the space, and in doing so, actually funnel natural light in, grow plants, and create a public green space in a neighborhood that almost has none. So the space itself, this is a photo from the 30s, but was built as a turnaround place for streetcars in 1908. By 1948, it was completely abandoned as Americans decided that cars were much better than public transportation. And they basically left it intact. This is actually an iPhone photo that one of us took. So where is it? the Lower East Side of New York. It's one of New York's oldest neighborhoods. It's the neighborhood where almost every immigrant to New York 100 years ago first moved when they first came to America. And so it's a very culturally rich neighborhood, but because it is sort of, the neighborhood where everyone first arrived, it's historically one of the poorest neighborhoods of New York. 100 years ago, it was also literally the most densely populated place in the world. And so the combination of this density, leaving no more extra space, coupled with the fact that it was a fairly poor neighborhood, created a neighborhood that was both culturally rich, but also lacking a lot of the basic amenities that the rest of us oftentimes take for granted. So just to sort of show a little bit of the scale of this, it's about 2 city blocks in size. I lack the math skills to translate the size into meters, but it's about 40,000 square feet. Actually, that's pretty easy. That's, 4,000 square meters. And just to sort of give an indication of the amount of green space in the neighborhood, there's not very much. Even in New York City, which is, has less park space per person than most cities in the world, it has by far the least in New York City also. So what was once a sort of historically vibrant neighborhood, over the years, has sort of experienced this sort of systematic neglect, this domination by the automobile, this sort of destruction of public spaces that over time has led to this, which is the current condition. So how do we take this streetscape, one of the busiest streets in New York, and one of the busiest, most crowded neighborhoods, and transform it? Well, the concept is that we can use a set of parabolic surfaces to actually concentrate natural sunlight to 30 times the brightness of the sun. We then take that super concentrated ray of sunshine, send it down through the street, spread it back out, and use that pure natural sunlight to grow plants underground. In doing so, we can sort of take this space, clean it up a little bit perhaps, and emerge with a space that looks a little bit something like this, creating a public green space where there's nothing, reactivating an old, ancient, historical space, and actually in doing so, not only creating something that embraces our future and futuristic technologies, but also creating something that also fuses it with our past and our history. So it not only is a fusion of our history and our future, but also creates a public space for a neighborhood that really kind of needs it the most.
Okay, thanks, James. And let me just echo James's thanks as well for having us here in your beautiful city in Moscow. I imagine that many of you now are asking questions about our proposal for the world's first underground park. Does the technology work? Is this the kind of space that people would want to visit? So when we first proposed this project back in 2011, 2012, we heard a lot of those kinds of questions. Is this feasible? Will it work? And so the very first thing that we did was to build a prototype of the technology. We actually went to Kickstarter. Some of you may know Kickstarter, and we raised a little bit of money to basically take over a warehouse, install the solar technology on the roof of the building, and then have a live green space inside. And we opened it to the public. And to our happiness, many people came. 11,000 people came in 1 week. And they treated it in many of the same ways that you would treat a park that maybe is more traditional and outside. They would come and really spend time. And so we knew very early on that there was just extraordinary community interest and the enthusiasm for this idea, particularly actually among young people. And so, sorry, this is a little... one of the exciting things about the project is that we learned that the Lowline was an extraordinary opportunity for teaching young people about the power of science and technology. So we built a program that now has reached over 2,000 young people across New York City of all ages in an effort to unpack the solar technology, explain how it works, but also get them involved in the concept of design and introducing them to the disciplines necessary for this kind of work. So these are some of the models. We had the young people actually design some of the 3D models themselves. Oh, point there. Okay. Okay. So most recently, last fall in October, we actually opened up a live technology exhibition called the Lowline Lab right at the center of the neighborhood, actually, that we're talking about, the Lower East Side neighborhood in New York City. So we took over an abandoned building, installed solar technology on the roof. These are essentially large heliostats that track the sun as it makes its way across the sky all day, and then reflect that light down into otherwise dark building. Then we planted an ambitious landscape of a variety of plants that require different and varying levels of light. And then we opened up the installation last October. Again, natural sunlight is streaming into the space, and a live landscape installation which now is composed of over 3,500 plants, 80 different species, all kept alive by this solar technology. And then we invited the public to come and see it. And so far, actually, since October, we've had almost 70,000 people come and visit the Lowline Lab. And we actually are only open on weekends. If any of you are coming to New York over the next few months, we're open until next March of 2017, so you have time to come and visit. So unsurprisingly, kids absolutely love it. This is a little cave that James and his design team built that would be fun for kids and for dogs. And unsurprisingly, it's a very fun and popular spot. But it really also enables us to think about the social and cultural possibilities of a space like this. So really, what can we unlock? First of all, we know we can unlock the potential of science education for young people. As I mentioned, thousands of kids have visited the space, and we've used it as a real learning center for science. It's also been an incredible avenue for creativity. This is a group that actually came to us and asked if they could perform a choreographed dance inspired by the Lowline itself. So that was kind of fun. And here, actually, you can see a small business market that was basically celebrating all of the local foods from the neighborhood. And it attracted over 8,000 people over the course of a weekend day. And so we were able to triple the revenue for the merchants in that neighborhood on that given day. We actually had a yoga in the space. This is 75 people, a very large yoga class, enjoying the space itself. And it's been used for all kinds of activities, meditation, and plenty of kids plenty of events that are sort of centered around kids and families. So at its heart, we think that the Lowline really is something that can unlock the potential of the underground as thinking about public space, creating more public space in our very dense cities, something that I think delivers extraordinary cultural and social benefits. And one of the things that I think has inspired James and I, and many of the first-time visitors that I've met, is the grand potential of the underground here in Moscow. So one thing to consider, and maybe for discussion, is to think about what kinds of spaces may be activated underground and below the streets of Moscow itself. So thank you.
Следующий выступающий.
Our next speaker will also be talking about how important it is not only to build a building, but also to think about what life there is around. An architect from Mexico who works in Mexico City and Kuwait, Michael Rockkent.
Yeah, perfect. Oops. Thank you very much for the invitation. Congrats, guys, on the presentation. And, okay. I threw in a couple of projects to kind of broaden the idea of how to tackle different projects depending on the clients, because there is not one solution. No? There is an idea, and there's a couple of instruments that we sometimes use about paying attention, selection, and then adapting things for a project. So the first one is a cultural project that we did in Kuwait. It was a competition. Hani Rashid was also participating on the competition. Cultural and educational center. So what happens when you're a foreign architect and you come in to a different place? So the first idea is to kind of have fresh eyes, come in with fresh eyes and look at the ideas of what's going on in the city. So in here we were trying to understand how to hide a little bit from the sun and the rays and the importance of creating elements that would have an independent environment, but also create a shading device because you have a building that was able to produce that. This was the result. At the end, it was a very sad competition. I wish we had Strelka helping us because at the end, nobody won. It was a speculative competition. And I mean, we did a lot of work preparing on the whole idea that how can we have more of a project than what the client is asking for. But I'm going to jump into one that we did work with the Mexican government. And the whole idea of working with is how can we help our clients improve the outcome of the project. This is the National Film Institute that we designed. It was an existing project that we had to do in addition to that existing project. And so what we decided to do was put the new cinemas in this area, and all the space that was used for a car park now became a public park. It became an open space, it became a garden. And the whole idea, it was not asked for in the brief. We challenged the brief, we challenged the client, we put an outdoor cinema. We did many things. We created in a very short timeline with a very restrained budget. We, at the end, ended up doing this project, with a canopy and a public space. But what is more amazing about the result, or what we enjoyed more about the result, is not that we could do a really nice cinema and do really good architecture, but really what happened to the public space. That the space was actually taken over by the people, not only because of the cinema, but also as a public place for manifestation. So here you have fathers of the disappeared 43 students in Mexico that are still complaining because the government has not given an answer. But you have from these manifestations or riots, very pacific riots or very organized manifestations, to jazz concerts that don't have to do anything with music, but that was the whole idea. We wanted to push the limits of having a project that at the end could have much more than the original proposal. And this is the daily activity. This is the daily activity of a guy playing guitar to his girlfriend, the woman finding stuff on the internet. And this is the stuff that was not put on the brief, that I think creates more culture than the culture that was asked for from the beginning. No? The outdoor cinemas, and even the outdoor cinema was a space that when we proposed it, the client said, no, nobody's going to sit in the garden. And I said, why not? In Mexico, we have great weather. We have at least 6 to 7 months of amazing weather. And when we opened it, it was 3,000 people sitting in the garden. This is Peter Greenaway, and me without a beard. But we had Peter Greenaway go and see our film institute. And I was very happy because I'm a huge fan of Peter Greenaway. And I remember showing him every detail and sit down here and look at the audio that we had these great engineers doing the acoustics. And when we came out, he said, I asked him, what's the favorite thing that you like more about the place? And he pointed out to the gardens. And he said, the everyday life that you created here. Because this is why we do cinema. This is why you guys create spaces, because you watch society, how it evolves and changes, no? So I was very happy to hear that from a guy like Peter Greenaway. And this is another project that we're doing now. And I think the interesting thing that also is going to relate to the other panel that we have about the Guggenheim effect. The government made a competition, if I can get the next slide, for a symphony hall. I'll stand here, maybe I can get them better. Okay. An existing orchestra in Mexico City, in Veracruz, and they needed a house. They didn't have a house. They didn't have their own place. So they did a competition. We won the competition, and the whole brief was to do a house for the orchestra. When we started doing the project in the beach, as you're going to see now, what was really... I'm going to go back. Okay. That's the proposal, the winning proposal. But I told the guy from the government, my client, I said, it's not going to work if it's only going to be just the symphony hall. It has to be a renewal, an urban plan. It has to be something that really reconnects the city. So we started working on the urban plan, of course, with some urban friends, urbanist friends. We had sociologists, we had financial guys, making sure we understood how to really reconnect, even changing the zoning of that part of the city. So the client came in for one project, and we gave him more than one project. And that's what we do in the office, try to push the limits of where we can get in order to really make it socially responsible, or as I say, a shared responsibility amongst all the people that are there. The project is under construction now, and this is an aerial photo. And what is interesting is now that the project started, the zoning changed, and now there's a couple of people investing on private projects around. As you see here, imagine you have this site here, and you have abandoned plots. So now the plots are changing. There's a whole idea of refurbishing the street. The wave breaker is becoming a public space. That's how the project is undergoing now, the Symphony Hall on the inside. And again, as we did with the National Film Institute for the government in Mexico City, in this one, it is about the concert hall and about the musicians, but it's about also what we can do with the cinema, with the place when there is no concert. Can we have movies? Can we play some other things in there? And even the raw, brutalist effect that we wanted to create, because it sits in the beach and has to respond to certain climate conditions, that's where we are now with the project. And this was a video. And I'll close with this one that also has to do, this is, for instance, a private client, Nestle. What does Nestle have to do with cultural stuff, no? You would ask. So we grabbed him as a client, and he wanted us to do an access to the chocolate factory, and we said, why don't we do a museum? You don't have a museum, and the Mexican government doesn't have a museum. Why don't you really use that potential to create something cultural and give back to the community? We convinced Nestle to do it, and we did the first chocolate museum in Mexico City, which is in the factory of Nestle, but it's giving back to the community. And I think, again, this whole idea of how we need to react, instead of just waiting for the client to give us a program and say, okay, we'll do our checklist and we'll well behave and do the stuff he wants, how can we question that and really take the step to provoking and really making something that reaches more people than just the client who paid for the project? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Abroad, if you remember the Beijing Olympics of 2012 and the information center, well, the author of this information center is with us, Pei Zhu, a Chinese architect.
Основательность правит миром, поэтому Пейджур сейчас допроверит свою презентацию и сюда выйдет.
Bazhenov check his presentation, and he will join us. If I'm not mistaken, Buckingham Museum in Beijing is also one of his projects. Well, I need to fill in the pause. Well, let me move a little while.
Итак, дамы и господа, Пейджу.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bazhenov, the floor is yours.
Maybe one day more in Russia, in the Moscow, it's really fantastic. I strongly feel Moscow have the art spirit, the DNA, so can make architecture much great. My topic today is nature attitude. This topic actually generated by a question that has me, interesting me a very long time. The Chinese architects struggle to find some contemporary solution to make their work rotate into the Chinese culture or tradition. The most of their work have to rely on the traditional construction way or vernacular material, etc. And to make their work have the similarity with traditional, architecture. But my question is it is possible for us to translate some the for example, like a Chinese nature idea into the contemporary architecture work instead of the making superficial Chinese, traditional Chinese architecture inspiration. This is what I try to, the point try to make. Okay, this is just happened a few weeks ago. This semester I taught in Columbia University, and we have a lot of conversation with Kenny Frampton. He donated his personal book collection to the Hong Kong University. Look at this image, and a lot of book talking about the Russian constructivism. So this is very interesting. Actually, Russian gave a lot of influence about modernism. But go back to China, and this is maybe I start from this painting, which is Yuan Dynasty painting, talking about more landscape. But through this painting, what we can know, what we can learn. For example, the overall painting dominated by the mountain, which is nature, but artificial things very small. Another observation is more interesting. Almost 50% this painting is empty. But it is talking about the you, which is very interesting, the philosophy. Look at this, the painting is somehow to abstract things. Chinese artists, when they try to make this landscape painting, they never sit down in front of the mountain to make sketch. They would like to rather to traveling, many months or week. Once they go back home, they put everything together, including his experience, the memory or mood, everything. So you're really hard to tell this is which mountain, but you get a sense about this nature. So I think this is can be a big influence my architecture, which is more abstract, and also always create some I call Kong space, which means maybe if I translate Kong into the English, it's nothingness or emptiness. But for Chinese, actually, this is everything. So this also another inspiration. This painting also tells us architecture like this painting. After you're built, they not a perfect moment. You cannot build complete architecture. You need to leave a lot of the indefinite space, like future people to interpret, to give it a meaning. So this is also my architecture always leave a lot of flexible space. It's not try to make a very precise, perfectly complete architecture. Maybe we can go through the project I'm currently working on. So this is definitely I try to summarize the influence, which is Taoism, is talking about nature, in action art, which is also the Kong space. The first project I'm actually is work on right now under construction. I was invited by the important Chinese dancer Yang Liping. She spent most of her life to rediscover the vernacular dancing. We're going to create the performance center for her, which is located in Yunnan Dali province. In the beginning of our design, we not try to make a complete theater for her. Even her performance more vernacular in the past 10 years. Right now, she turned to more contemporary. But overall nature, location of the project is so nature dominate, more like a Tao Huayuan, like Eden for the Chinese, surrounding by the mountain. So a couple of ideas. First of all, we try to break up the, the boundary between the theater and the amphitheater. We also create a roofscape to reflect the climate. It's local. It's a beautiful climate, never too hot in summer, too cold in winter. The people love to stay outdoor. They singing in the mountain, dancing on the farmland. This is very unique for the local climate. So this is the reason the big roof. Definitely not the idea. This yin-yang idea is try to, first of all, make this architecture more like a sponge rather than object, to like air, like people, like landscape, to really integrate with architecture. Even for her performance, it's not only happen indoor. Actually, after we working together, right now we start work on the her show together. Right now we start to think about we're going to bring the show to the outdoor, underneath the roof, or above the roof. For example, you can see this roof, right? So this is amphitheater. This is theater. So overall design it's not like object to block everything. Like typical, the amphitheater theater. So this is somehow between this I call the yin and then this yang, actually Kong space I mentioned. Actually, this is going to be the center for the overall design. So look at this axon. This is suppose the main, hall, but this is an amphitheater. There's some rehearsal room, but actually this is a center. People can be looking at the performance from the amphitheater, also from the theater too. This is during the conceptual and the schematic level. We created this kind of like a local landscape. The mountain water is so dominant. The 4,000 meters high mountain, but huge lake front. So this somehow to reflecting the kind of yin-yang, I call also the Kong space became the very significant the role. So even the amphitheater is much transparent. This is different. We open the skylight, we let air to flow in. So this building, no air conditioning. Very naturally, we try to make a very natural ventilation. The fuel tower, this is a tower which is bring people up to the roof. Definitely you also can climb from this amphitheater on the roof. So this is a kind of, you can see a lot of Kong space or voice space created for the people to interpret. It's not architects want to do something. Actually, this can be interpreted in the future by the curator or artist. So lot of shadow. The roof played a significant role, protect from the rain, and also create a shadow. So this is a kind of amphitheater, this side of the theater. So the material, we kind of think our form is kind of very organic, more like one drop down, one drop up. So this material top is a local, the sandstone, but this is a render, which is cast earth wall. But this is a wood, more like somehow like a nest. This image is strongly definite. The big event going to happen here, and then architecture can make this show more interesting. It's not only for the night. Most of the time, people can drink coffee, eating. A lot of activity can be happen underneath this roof. So this is a door can be totally sliding out. The people can go in and out like performance. This is a kind of right now we are under construction. So you can see the mountain. It's really high, 4,000 meters tall mountain. It's beautiful. The place encourage everybody to go. It's so nice. the same region. Currently, we work on the DD level NASA, the Contemporary Art Museum. Performance center is here, more close to this huge lake. The bottom mountain, we try to create another contemporary museum. Dali became to a lot of Chinese intellectual people's destination. A lot of poets, people, filmmaker, the artists, even contemporary arts start to flow into the Dali since they're surrounding by the nature. So, but they have no single gallery or museum. A lot of artists are here. The government tried to create another contemporary art museum, but at the same moment, try to promote has one heritage has abandoned. This is the Tang Dynasty pagoda, right? This is so definitely this overall design pretty much landscape oriented. Is somehow to inspire by the Han Dynasty, the Chinese garden called Zen Garden, which is Chinese consider the whole universe is just whole ocean just 3 islands. Until Qing Dynasty, look at the Summer Palace. It's also based on the very old Chinese the vision, the philosophy. So this is my first sketch, is talking about how we hide this building underneath the earth. Actually, it's underneath the stone. Actually, we're cutting this stone out. And then this Tang Dynasty pagoda. Only few rock. This is my sketch. So this painting strongly showing the nature, how building modest to high. Only, some things pop around. Also take advantage from this new construction, new design to generate this Tang Dynasty pagoda, the Qing Dynasty, the temple together. Maybe people still feel the earlier image, 1-3 fish. This is like a 3 fish, how we generate a place rather than just to create one object. So this during the schematic level, we somehow to detail this in general layout. This is going to be covered on earth or landscape. Only the few, maybe this image going to show how we move. Okay. So yeah, this model. You can see the relation. I cannot control it. Okay. So this is rendering actually is pretty much demonstrated the idea I just pointed out. Actually, it's translated from very old Chinese, the Zen Garden. So this is mountain, bottom of the mountain, Tang Dynasty pagoda, cultural heritage. Eventually, this building, you're really hard to tell. Things they hiding behind the forest. Pretty much just very kind of organically to settle down. For another one is more current in my work. We just finished the concept level. I'm working on the one imperial called the cube, which is ceramic. The Jingdezhen is one important Chinese city. The porcelain or ceramic you saw in the British Museum or Metropolitan Museum actually produced from this city. During the Ming Dynasty, there's a lot of porcelain shipped go through the Indian, Middle East, the Mediterranean to the Europe. So this is our Alex side. This is an imperial the cube. Our museum is just one street across, just adjacent. So this is a kind of we standing on the pavilion, looking down the side. You can see this is a side. Actually, it's very generic, the situation, but across this street, this is a historical Alex side. So we inspirate. Oh my God, out of battery. This is you can see this is people to start to recover some, rebuild traditional porcelain kiln, which is made brick. You can see they without star folding, just made it by brick. So we inspired by the section which is this kiln. So this is, you can see this is a two level, the top level and the lower level. This is underground. More like the traditional kiln, also based on two level. The ground level, they ship the ceramic in, but the top, they control the fire. So this is our kind of initial proposal for this Imperial Museum. Things they emphasize the kiln. This is a more like a primitive typology we try to generate together. And also during the construction, actually our project, our construction, is start cleaning up the site. But we find out another heritage, and then we start to reshape, readjust our design. But you can see this kind of very flexible, very primitive approach. It's not, very fashion way. This is a kind of this is close to the, right now we work on schematic level. We're going to form everything through the brick for this design. Definitely we also try to use the interior, the concrete. The people from the relic side, you can see this kind of a primitive, very low. The overall museum only 7 meters, 8 meters tall. The biggest only the 9 meters, the span. So this is can be very close to the local, the ceramic, the kiln. So this is the historical site. We somehow to integrate our museum inside the museum. This is more like opening of the. So you can see this.
I'm sorry, Pedro, we're running out of time. If
Right.
if you can be shorter.
Oh, maybe just a few minutes. Okay. So this is a kind of, the current the design. So maybe this one is also under construction. I just quick go through the image. Also inspired very primitive the typology with local Anhui province. The local house like this, you can see the big, the courtyard people stay. This is a very different, the vertical courtyard. This cultural center, art center, we put like 7 programs together through the many courtyard. Also create one public, the corridor to connect each courtyard. So this is a concept very, reflect to the local primitive housing. It's very inward rather than much open. So this you can see some local garden, the big mondor to the sky. This is an important thing. We create a really public corridor, go through all the program without interrupt. So this, God. I just tried. Okay, so this kind of, you can see the inspiration through the kind of typology is local. But the material we use were the new material. But all the garden we create kind of inspired by the local the garden. So probably I'm going to finish. I think this is a similar approach. We are working on the Tibet, another the center. More reference their alley, reference their courtyard, the material. I think the overall design somehow was generated by the local climate. We really respect, we strong believe actually nature created this architecture rather than people. So, but if you go outside of Lhasa, you can see a lot of tropical building has been built in such cold area. That's really tragedy for the, you're really unbelievable. A lot of mega city in China, they build whatever they want, just based on the technology. I think this is one of the reasons Beijing so much Maybe I better end up here since we're already running out. Maybe I also join another panel which is talking about more like museum things. Maybe rest the presentation I can leave the next panel. Спасибо. Thank you, everybody.
Большое спасибо. Я хочу...
Thank you very much. So let me announce that at today at 7 p.m. There will be a lecture by our brilliant Peju, and maybe he will speak more than he managed to say today. So today we more work with the Russian cities and towns, and the question is how to change them.
How to change them thanks to just one institution. I'm speaking about the city of Yekaterinburg, and I'm speaking about the first president of Russia's center, Yeltsin Center, and the architect and the director, Boris Berlusconi, and Dina Sorokina will be speaking about it. Who's going to be the first? Boris? Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Despite China is being developed much faster than Russia will try to stay within the agenda. The main idea of this project was to create an attractive platform, not in a center like Moscow or St. Petersburg that are closer to Europe, but in a different city. And it's a challenge, it's a difficult task, because any construction project in the province, maybe you know that, it's a different reality, it's a different style of work. I will be showing some slides right now, and in parallel I will be telling you the story, the history of creating this first President's Center in Russia. Some examples: Kennedy President Center, Clinton President Center, Churchill, going back to the Soviet Union, the Lenin Museum. So we were looking an image, a style for this first presidential center in Russia. We thought it should be an easy thing, and we thought it should not be architecture but super graphics. We've been looking for a space, for a parcel, for a lot of time. Although I think Yekaterinburg is one of the highest, or the city that has the biggest construction rate. All the parcels were taken, so we had a parcel with a building already built. So on the right side you see the new building, and on the left side you see what we consider the architecture of the Yeltsin Center. Let me also say that Yeltsin Center, the name, is also an important part, because if you pronounce the whole name, it will be a too long name, and we decided to shorten it so that this name could reflect both the meaning of the center and also the function of this center. So center actually describes what we do. This is a different view. So we started working with it we started to work with a brownfield, 85,000 square meters, huge building, concrete, unfinished facades. So we decided to leave it as it is and finish it using the project that already existed. And we decided to add some traits, some elements. And then we also added, thanks to these elements, some additional functions that would help to create not just a museum, because initially it was thought as a museum, but also to add other functions, functions that would make this place a continuation of the city. It was mentioned in different presentations that architecture is no longer a facade or just a building. It is something that is part of the city and part of the program. So programs and activities are more important today than the architecture. So on this graphic you see the lines we had, and white is what we added. In the initial project there was this good element that really attracted this part of the city to the city center, because the building is located on a river, and we decided to connect one side of the river with the Yeltsin Center in order just to increase the number of visitors, because the nearby bridges are located 2 kilometers and 1 kilometer away, and they're not pedestrian but transport bridges. So we created this cover for the building, which is both a platform for a media screen, so small holes, and also super graphics of the facade itself, which makes this building different from the surrounding and would be used as an identity for the new presidential center. You see, I also wear this pin. It's a part of the facade, and it's a distinctive mark of those who participated or visited the museum. We also paid a huge attention to the functionality. We decided not to change anything and to use the spaces, refurbishing them a little bit with very simple means. We created an art gallery, and together with them we did the first exhibition. Before launching the center, we created a 1991 cafe, and what was important is that all the names, all the parts, all the elements of the center are somehow linked to the time of the President Yeltsin. So we wanted to add these feelings, we wanted to add these elements that would take all the visitors back to the 90s. Bookstore, educational center. Well, Dina will tell you more about the museum. I will just finish my presentation by showing the exhibition of the 90s. A quick review. We did it with Elena Silina, quite a well-known gallery manager. She was the curator of the Excel exhibition, for instance. One of the participants, Dmitry Kotov, was the first guy, the first lecturer during this exhibition. And we have to say that all of the artists are top artists. Koshelkov, Bulatov, Kulik, Dubosarsky, if, well, you know who they are. Osmolovsky, and of course the quality of the launching was very important to us. Dina will continue our presentation, and in the end we will show you how the screen works. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm also branded with this pin. I wear it all the day. We like to say that this perforation is a part of our facade. Can you put on my presentation, please? As Boris said, our presidential center is the first one in the country. It was opened in November last year. This is the main hall, the atrium space. But let me just tell you a little bit about what we do since the very beginning. I started working at the center 4 months ago, and I can say everything buzzes in our building, in our museum. We're kind of a magnet, social and cultural magnet in our city. As Boris said, we're on the river Iset. There is a pond, and we're next to this riverbank, and we're an attraction point in this area. We are, of course, our museum is, of course, the nucleus of our center and probably the main content of our center. We had already 150,000 visitors. For our city is quite a big figure. Most of them are young, from teenagers to 40. So these are 65% of our visitors. I'm speaking only about the museum now. If I speak about the art gallery or the bookstore, Petrovsky bookstore, then there the audience is even younger. They're normally very socially active. Quickly, some rooms. This is one of my favorite rooms, the Freedom Room, Svoboda Room, with a great view, with a picture by Eric Bulatov, Freedom again. It continues the landscape of our city and is somehow in touch with the city and creates one single space with the city. It's a place for reflection, meditation, the last room of our exhibition. Attraction centers. Apart from the museum, there are other platforms. This museum was thought through as an integrated space where people could visit not only the museum but also the co-working area, which we opened a couple of weeks ago, which is an informal, interesting place for independent co-work, or the spaces you saw in the Boris's presentation, and we're expanding our possibilities right now. We also have the art gallery, almost 1,000 square meters of exhibition space in two floors. We also have the cinema and conference hall, which I use very often for performances, events, openings. Petrovsky bookstore holds almost daily conferences, roundtables, panel discussions. We had the Night of Music Festival. Lisa Monetочка, a young performer, young lady, was actually participating there. Cinema and conference hall, modern space we use as a multifunctional room, not only for cinema, author evenings, but also for corporate events. I can't avoid mentioning, of course, our central atrium space, 4,000 square meters. On a daily basis, we hold corporate events, forums, concerts, lectures, poetry recitals, Brodsky recitals were organized recently. A lot of people came to remember this great poet. Concerts of Mumitrol band, for instance, 3,000 people came. So our task is to use this space not as one format space, but we're open to proposals. I also wanted to show a quick video clip which informs about the events we conduct in our center. Maybe we can launch the video, and I will be speaking while we're showing it. So, some shooting of the events. For instance, on the 21st of May, we organized a museum, a night of museum. It's almost a daily event, animation workshop. 4 workshops were conducted, DJ sets, guided tours to the museum, 35 guided tours to the museum, master classes in our art gallery, children's quest, which we launched, which is hugely popular today. Piano concert in the Atrium Hall. Laureates of Lata Shevchenko Prize evenings organized annually by Yeltsin Center. So 3 movies shown with art critics and actors. This event is of huge interest because we like to discuss openly what we see, what we want. And actually, the grand opening of our fountain that happened last month in the end of May made our fountain one of the main sightseeing points, just like the star. Last week, we were conducting the annual 2nd festival, Ural Music Night. We had 70 sites or platforms around the city, but ours was the main one. We had different musicians from our region, from Perm, from Yekaterinburg city. We had also international guests like Wings or the Nishastny Sluchy band from Russia. During the music night, we did a mini preview of our media facade. We'll show the facade in a minute, but I'd like to say that for me it was a big dilemma or a big issue to be here at the forum and at the opening of the media facade. We will show some videos made by Stefan Hoffmann, a well-known German artist. The project is called Lichtwerke, and then view from the other side, from a little dam on the Yisei River. So you see how bright, how visible this center is, and the view can be enjoyed not only by the visitors but also by the city dwellers. A quick video. I'm done. I know I have no time. How short the video is? 1 minute. Okay, let's launch it. Thank you. I would just like to comment. This is a commission made by Stefan Hoffmann, Lichtwerke. He's a specialist in art graphics, media graphics, and for our preparation, we asked him to create special content. And I think it is very important because you can show whatever you like on the screens. And sometimes it looks like a computer preview, but for our facade, we tried to create seasonal content that you can change depending on the season or depending on the event. And this is what Stefan Hoffmann did. And we're very grateful. And it's very important that exactly today at 7 o'clock, we're going to launch this facade. With this dreamy music, I would like to congratulate Dean and Boris with their facade, and as there is little time, I would like to invite Tim Flynn, architect and director of the School of Ruben Verdinian. Tim Flynn, please welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. It's once again a wonderful urban forum. I'm going to talk about a philanthropic project that has sort of grown quite considerably since its conception. So basically, this is a college in Armenia. So that's me. You don't need to know much about me. But Idea Foundation, I just want to touch on these. These are two quite remarkable people, Ruben Vardanian and Veronica Zonnebend, who actually are creating a philanthropic organization that concentrates on the changing landscape for Armenia from survival to prosperity. And their focus is mainly on education, culture, tourism, and urban renewal. So UWC Diligent and the town are both philanthropic projects. So what I'm going to show you is all funded by them and their friends. The first project was to create an Armenian international school, and not an international school in Armenia. And we were trying to position Armenia in the as an educational destination, with the exchange of knowledge, and also to promote diversity and a multicultural environment. So my vision basically was just to engage as much as possible the local population and have a positive impact upon the whole region. I wanted to create some sort of legacy myself, and I also wanted to utilize traditional materials, methods, as well as bringing international expertise to Armenia. So you may want to know what UWC Diligent is. Well, Diligent is UWC is a United World College, and there are 16 in the world. And each college has its own identity, but they have a key mission, which is to inspire students through education to create a more peaceful and sustainable environment. And Diligent was, I think, the 14th to be built. It currently has international students from 61 nations, so it's quite remarkable again for Armenia. So Armenia, obviously, presumably most of you know where that is. For us Westerners, we didn't know where it was initially, but it's obviously in the mountainous Caucasus region. And Diligent itself is a renowned town spa from the Soviet period. And it was quite famous due to its microclimate, and is favored by artists, or was favored by artists, composers, and filmmakers, and sets in a beautiful setting. So how Diligent College sort of developed, as I say, it's ultimately going to be an international boarding school for 650 students. It's on 88 hectares of land, and the national park has influenced its design. So the choice of location, which wasn't my choice, but it was quite challenging. It's mountainous terrain, it's in a national park, it has a high level of seismic activity, it's prone to land slippages, and it has a mountain river running by. So it's pretty challenging. There are also lots of other challenges for a project of this nature too, was that not all the building techniques were available in Armenia at the time. We had limited availability of materials. We had very scarce local skills, and we lacked infrastructure. And many of the new build technologies really just weren't appropriate at the time. So we were going to impact quite substantially on the local environment. We were going to build a 30,000 square meter campus, which, as I say, was going to have a massive impact upon the environment. So we needed to find a way of minimalizing it. So the idea was that we wanted to cut out an existing aging orchard, build the school, and basically put back what was taken out. The architecture became influenced by the mountains and the landscape of the national forest. And we wanted the green roofs to blend into the surrounding areas and really just complement the national park as much as we could. So the rolling roof panels that we created were a tool to soften the enormous buildings and break them up and break up the massing. And we wanted to develop a sympathetic approach to the development of the boarding houses, which again were quite large structures, and create a village feel, which is very complementary to Diligent itself. And the green roof was basically one of the visions of the project, and it was truly a sort of local solution. The solar panels and renewable energies really weren't appropriate in Armenia at the time, and also quite difficult to implement it when we started building. So the green roofs and the living walls meant that we were able to utilize really what was there and what was available. And it brought a sort of to life a solution that really blends the school's landscape with its surrounding nature. The solution also involved taking really advantage of the area, which was renowned for its forest landscapes, its biodiversity, and its numerous springs. And the local population got involved with the project as well, right from the very beginning. The biodiversity of Armenia is quite remarkable as well. It has 3,500 wildflowers. It's a sort of mecca for wild flowers in one of the meccas in the world, really. And it has approximately 100 species per square kilometer. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to collect seeds and bulbs, which were found locally, and we selected 40 that were going to be utilized on the school. So the green roofs and the living walls were really just we were putting back what was in the surrounding meadowlands and everything, and we wanted to create a piece of landscape architecture that wasn't just a purely manicured lawn. So, and it became the very first school to have such a large area of natural vegetation. And the students actually became involved, so it became a living laboratory as well. So the students were involved with the local population in harvesting, collecting plants, and the bulbs. And it started initially with the summer camp and then moved on to the school. So now the school, as it's been developed, is being tended by the students as well. And we also wanted to use the natural colors of the national forest in our interiors of the school. So the shades of green and yellow start to reflect the natural colors. And floor-to-ceiling glazing creates this, it draws the exterior into the buildings. Students always feel part of the landscape wherever they are in the buildings. The school's constantly changing. It's with its seasons. And as the school grows, realistically, the students arrive at the school, and when they leave the school, you know, they'll be different just as the school will. So what's next? You know, this was a major investment, philanthropic, as I said before. So we're now building a performing arts center, and this has had quite a, well, the school has had quite a major impact on the town as such, and we're building this performing arts center, which really is a vision. It's quite unique, actually, for a school, and it's going to become the focal point for not only the school, but also for the town, and hopefully for Armenia. It's being designed to the highest international standards, and we want to create something that's a lot more sophisticated than anything that's actually we have in Armenia at the moment. So, the Performing Arts Center consists of a concert hall, a theater, a dance studio, music and drama school, and dining facilities for the whole of the school. It'll have seating capacity of approximately 750, or accommodate about 750, 635 being seated. It'll be a world-class concert space. We'll have a flexible theater as well, which can be, it's totally flexible and has 9 different settings, and can accommodate 150 to 425 people. We'll also have a dance studio, which also can be used for recitals, and the dining hall, which can also be used for with the theater for evening performances, and the dining hall can accommodate the whole of the school 3 times a day. So why is UWC important to Diligent? Well, it's a project that has influenced the development of Diligent as well. Its realization has created a fantastic opportunity for the town. And we've actually set standards that for further development as well. So the foundation now, which again, as I mentioned, is a philanthropic one, is looking to the development of the district as a response to the development of the school. The Performing Arts Center is going to become the link with the local community, and is going to be integrated into the new development of the town. And the existing conditions in Diligent are sort of, they don't engage pedestrians, they have outdated and underutilized properties, it's missing atmosphere, it's a bit boring and dull. There's outdated facilities void of public spaces. It has dilapidated historical quarters. So we consider that there are areas for Diligent to capitalize on. One of it's obviously its nature, its heritage, its new developments which are springing up, but we want to try and control. And actually, all of this has started the regeneration, really, and reurbanization of Diligent as a whole. And the foundation at the moment is getting involved in its infrastructure development, traffic engineering, historical development, economic development, beautification, etc. So we, as a foundation, again, is looking at the city centre and concentrating on that at the moment, and which we're hoping to sort of reinforce the cultural identity. We want to preserve the historical content and heritage, and we want to create active public spaces and improve generally the visual order. So this is just a sort of footprint of the area. So on the left-hand side is the campus of the school, and on the right-hand side is the city centre, which with its lake and developments. And so this whole region is now being looked at as a further development from the start of the school. And this is just an example of actually the city centre where the lake is being extended and beautified. We are planning to do a convention center and a hotel, build a new bus station, and do lots of new retail and commercial ventures as well, just to bring back into the city centre some activity.
I'm sorry, Tim, 2 minutes left.
Okay, I'll be that. So we're going to create a new identity and a sense of destination. And we want to use beautification. We have all the local flowers and wildflowers and everything which we're able to do as a tool for urban renewal. So what are the successes? Well, because of UW Diligent, we've been able to start to change the town. And by changing the town, actually, we're starting to influence the standards in the whole of Armenia. It was the first BREEAM building as well, so we've been able to raise the standards in Armenia. And there were other sort of interesting things where it's gained some awards as well. So generally, I think it's been a successful project. Spasibo.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Tim, and I would like also to thank all of you listening to Tim. Unfortunately, our session has been so interesting, and we don't have any time for a question-answer session. But we have time for a small competition and bonus. You remember? Elena K was the winner, and now, Elena, if you are here, please come here, and Grigory Pechersky will give her prize. Elena, the winner, is she here? You remember we voiced her as a winner, so this is your prize, Elena. Thank you very much. Thank you for being so much involved. And now I'd like to thank all of you once again, the speakers and the audience. And we're in for more sessions, and hope that this day will be preserved.